everybody. Good morning. How are you doing? I have that it's 10 o'clock. I hope there are not any connectivity problems. My camera is looking a little wonky. Please forgive me. I'm doing the best that I can. I'll wait to see if somebody joins on. It's Dr. Cindy Stark here coming in for my weekly Tuesday at 10 talk. How are you doing? If y'all are coming in live, just type in hashtag live so I know that you're here. And if you're coming in on the replay, type in hashtag replay and let me know where you're from. Any newcomers in here, I just love seeing where you're from and where you found me. And if I always say this, as I always say this too, if any of what I say today is resonating with you, then chances are it's resonating with your people as well. And so I've made this shareable, so share it. I would love to get this message out for people that we don't have to live our lives really just encaptured and embroiled in this theme of perfectionism. That's what we're talking about today is perfectionism. So I have some news. Next week is my 1 year anniversary of coming in every Tuesday at 10. I missed a couple of Tuesdays over the past year, but next week is my anniversary. So if anybody has any of their favorite topics that I've talked about or something else that you would like me to talk about as we're going through this today too, I would love for you to type that in because I will talk about whatever you guys want me to talk about next week in honor of my 1 year anniversary of doing these talks for you guys. So, as most of you know, my name is Dr. Cindy Stark. I am a recently retired internal medicine physician who's gone full time. Hey, Hannah, it's so good to see you live from New Mexico, and I have spent about 30 years of my life being an internal medicine doctor, and about the last 10 years of it, I realized that although what I was doing was wonderful, taking care of people's high blood pressure and diabetes and things like that. I felt as if I wasn't really bringing about any true transformational healing. So I've now gone full time into life coaching and trauma release, specifically childhood trauma release, by using tools using neurolinguistic programming and subconscious rewiring. And I run online academies at night so that people can really get to the best parts of their lives. I feel like a lot of the people that I attract into my world are people not only in the healthcare industry because we end up taking care of everybody else, but we don't really know, we were never really told how to take care of ourselves, but also people in the second halves of their lives where they're just kind of coming into an awakening of what all there is to do in this world and in this life that they're gifted with. And, a lot of people just aren't really living the kinds of lives that they want to be living. So I started a year ago bringing in these little digestible 30-minute talks on helping you guys learn what I've learned and some tools I've gotten certified in on how to gain access to the enormous power in your brain, specifically your subconscious brain. Our subconscious brain runs 96% of our show, 96% of the show in our lives. And you think that, gosh, why am I not losing the weight? Or why am I not, speaking up in important relationships in my life? Why don't I have the type of relationship I want with my mom or with my daughter or whatever? And you're just thinking it right here from the frontal lobe. No one realizes that that frontal lobe of our brain only harnesses 4% of the major command in our brain. The 96% of it is on autopilot and kind of gets set in stone, unfortunately, by the time we're 7 years old. I know Hannah is studying psychology right now, so she could. She's read so many interesting books on this, and it's just amazing the kinds of um, odds that we're up against. Really, you think that you have, everything just needs to be done with willpower and lists and intentionality. But when you realize that you can harness all of that through simple methods, all the power that's in our subconscious mind, the whole world becomes your oyster, and you can make quantum leaps in your life when you kind of get the frontal lobe and the conscious mind, where the conscious mind lives, in alignment with your subconscious, everything in the back. Hey, Melissa, it's good to see you. I'm so glad to have you here. So, what I want to talk about today is perfectionism and kind of where it comes from, and how, if we're not careful, it can actually ruin our lives. And there's a billion-dollar industry out there making sure that we don't feel beautiful enough or slim enough, or that our hair isn't perfect enough, or different things. And my dad always taught me that there are lots of ways that people in the business world know how to separate us from our money, and that's exactly what the beauty industry does. And so, lots of times, um, with perfectionism, what we're really trying to do is meet one of our six core human needs. And I will link, after this talk is over, I'll link the Tony Robbins talk from the 1970s. It's kind of funny to see Tony Robbins as a young guy in the 1970s, but he goes into detail about everything, all the different the basic core human needs. So, usually, when we are trying to be perfect, we're trying to meet one of the top three needs, and that is to gain love, to gain significance, or to feel safe. And if you think about that, when we come into this world, and into our family, we're completely helpless. We have to get our love and significance and safety from them. And lots of times, if you really think about it, I know I've spent a lot of my life thinking about it. We really are gaining safety outside of ourselves. Our moms and dads tell us what's safe. Our moms and dads tell us who to go to, behaviors to engage in. And, because we don't know anything when we first come in. And so it's no shocker, really, that by the time we're seven, so much of our subconscious beliefs have been deeply ingrained in there. And you have developed limiting beliefs on what is safe, and under what circumstances you are worthy and lovable, and all these different things. Now, the other three human needs that Tony Robbins will go into on the talk that I'll link are, we need certainty as humans. We need to know, we need to, that's why we all kind of operate in our comfort zone, because we need certainty. And I always say, because God has a sense of humor, another core human need is uncertainty. So we like variety and unpredictability and surprises. And then the sixth human need uh, is 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 one that unfortunately not many of us attain in our lives here on earth, and that is to make an impact in the world. And when you listen to the rest of my talk, you'll see why we never make it to that sixth one, because we're so busy, our subconscious, really at odds and wrestling and at war with our subconscious and our conscious mind. And so, when we can get those aligned with each other, again, you can make quantum leaps in your life. So, I come in here every Tuesday at 10, and I give you guys tools to learn how to run your brain, so that you can therefore run your life. And my programs that I teach are all about childhood trauma. And really, the trauma is not what happened to us when we were children, it's what we make it mean about ourselves. And I want to, if I'm not the first person to tell you guys, I want to tell you that you don't have to be perfect. All that God and everybody in your world, especially the people that you're in a relationship with, is all that they really want you to be is yourself, and there's nobody else like you. You're the only you. And if you are, hey Jenny, I'm so glad to see you here this morning, live from Melbourne, Florida. So if you realize that when you are just trying to be perfect, then what you're doing is you're trying to gain love and safety and acceptance and significance from an inauthentic part of yourself. And if you really are thinking about the prices that we're paying for being inauthentic, or for, excuse me, for being perfect, is we are being inauthentic. We are giving up our chances of having any kind of true love, because the people in our lives that are loving us the way that we think that we have to be perfect in this world, they're loving your mask. They're loving a facade of who you really are. And you know, if you're, one of the most important things that you need in your life is love, true love, then if you are just having people love a fake version of yourself, trying to be perfect, then no one's loving the true you. So you're not going to ever feel that authentic love. Your body can feel that. And, if you are living your life from a place of trauma and you haven't healed the effects of all the wounds and the childhood trauma, then you are unintentionally recreating your history over and over again. And when you're doing that, when you are recreating your traumas and your limiting beliefs over and over again from that place, you have no choice. And what I'm here to tell everybody and what I teach my clients is that you have a choice. And the safety actually comes from yourself. It doesn't come you don't give that safety over to other people. It comes from yourself, and that comes from a place of self-love. And if you can fall in love with yourself, with your authentic self, then oh, mom's in the house. Hey mom, it's good to see you this morning. Then then you're going to be able to figure out how to really uh, live your life based on your own playbook. There's each one of us on this earth are given a set of people that we are going to interact with in our lifetimes and a set of impact that we're going to make. And if you aren't being congruent with yourself, then and you're living your life based on someone else's playbook, you're only the one that can live your unique playbook based on your unique moment in time and history and the people that you're going to meet. And you're never going to win by playing by other people's rule books. So that's really what I do in my program. And if you're ready to uh, figure out what your unique playbook is here on this earth and how to reach it, then please, a I will drop in a link to book a call with me later, and we'll see if you're ready to really design your life the way that you're supposed to. So I want everybody just to think about all the different roles that we have in our lives and just type them in the comments right now. I know for me, I was a mom. Or I should say, I'm still a mom, a doctor, a daughter, a business person. I'm a community activist. I am a sister. Just think about all the different roles that you play in your life. And then you're wearing all those hats for all those different roles. And what we do is that we rate ourselves in all these different areas, okay? And as humans, we want to have control over that. And you again, if you are not feeling like you're in control of those and how you are with all those different roles, then you're not feeling that authentic love, because again, other people are loving the masks that you're wearing. All right? And I want to really impress upon y'all this morning that first of all, I mean, it's really easy to say accept yourself the way that you are, but before you can accept yourself the way that you are, you need to realize, you need to find out who you really authentically are. Because when you're seeking validation from so many others and you're not seeking validation yourself for yourself, then you're going to be miserable, because that's an unattainable thing, is to only get your love from others, especially if they're not, you know, knowing the real Cindy or the real Jenny or the real Hannah or the real Virginia, the real Melissa. And I know how perfectionism was showing up for me when I was a doctor. Is I kept signing up for all these different committees. I kept signing up for all these different shifts because I wanted people to like me. I wanted people to love me. I wanted people to think I was a great team player. uh, I was always trying to prove myself. My mom and dad always taught me to really be independent in my life and to never, need a man, to always, go out there and get your education so you can always provide for yourself. And I think that just kind of bled into like doing too much at work. And then you end up either killing yourself with different illnesses. I was getting sick like once a year, really bad sick, and going to work anyway. As doctors, we will literally go to work with terrible things, everything from fever to diarrhea to you name it. And what I end up realizing is that if I don't slow down and if I don't stop, then you can end up getting autoimmune disorders. You can end up going through adrenal fatigue, and no amount of coffee and no amount of props with a sugar or caffeine will ever make you feel energized when you're not healed and healthy and whole from the inside out. And if any of this is resonating with you guys, go back into my Facebook group, Reclaim Your Life and Health, and all these talks, the back talks, are cataloged. Okay, so again, when I was asking you guys to write down all the different roles that you play in your life. Well, what we do is we create a mask in each one of those roles to try to be perfect, and then we kind of give ourselves a grading system. So like for me in my business and my doctoring job, I would maybe give myself a 30% on a scale of 1 to 100. And then in parenting, I would say I would give myself 100%. As a wife, I would give myself like a 20 or 30%. As a daughter, or if any guys are coming on, a daughter or a son, maybe you'll give yourself an 80 on that. And then your role as a Christian, what would you rate yourself as a Christian? And then what we do is we take that lowest score that we have out of all those roles that we play, and we generalize that to all the different roles that we play. And then, my lowest one, I think I just said, was like a 20, 20, 30%. And then we equate that as a failure. And then if we feel like a failure, we're not firing from all cylinders. And so what you end up doing, what you end up having to do to kind of feel like you're 100 on everything and to operate from this level of authenticity and being congruent, your subconscious and your conscious mind, is that you have to heal all that trauma and all of those limiting beliefs that are in your subconscious mind. And in the reticular activating system, there will be gestalts, okay? And that's where our emotions are housed. And we have a gestalt for fear, and for anger, and for sadness, and for guilt. And if we don't lower those emotional gestalts, when we can't regulate those, then they end up spilling over. And I know I was just talking to someone yesterday at the home health business where I'm the medical director. You end up, when your sadness gestalt is almost all the way filled up, and then if you lose something, even a family pet, or if you or a relationship, or somebody dies that's really significant in your life, you end up feeling all of that sadness from every single thing in your gestalt that was there to hold your emotion of sadness. And so many of us are taught from when we were really, really young to just like deny our emotions and deny our feelings. If we were hurt, you'd say, oh no, if you were like me, you people would be around you saying, no, 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 don't cry, don't cry. Let's go look at this squirrel. Let's go give you a cookie. Let's go look at this pretty flower, or something like that. Like, just don't pay attention to the emotion that you're feeling. And when you're not given the permission to really experience and fully, you know, express that emotion, then all you're ever doing is kind of covering up things and zoning out and numbing up. And it's no fault to any parent. It's just kind of how we raise our kids. And when you end up numbing out the areas where you're trying to be sad, or you need to feel fearful, those emotions are there for you. They're there to teach you things about yourself. They're there to keep you safe. And if it's too painful to feel the sadness, or feel the hurt, or the guilt, or the shame, then you end up fighting against yourself, and then your subconscious mind is working against you, not for you. And I know one of the things that I learned about myself through all the different healing that I've been through is that I really run on variety. My innocent adventurer just loves to go out there and have. I never like to eat the same food. I don't even think I like to eat the same food twice in a month, but definitely not twice in a week. I always like to go walking on different paths. I like to go on little day trips, different places. And if you don't realize that you're meeting that core need for that variety, one of the fourth one that I was telling you about from Tony Robbins, then if you're not doing it intentionally and in a healthy way, then you end up finding, instead of just finding variety in your life, then you end up finding chaos, and it's destructive. And you end up guilting yourself over how you've lived your life, and again you end up living that same trauma over and over again. I always was creating chaos and dangerous, destructive variety, which was showing me that I was unlovable. and unworthy of true love. A long time ago, unfortunately, I was raped at age 14, and I uh, was at that time, I believe what happened in my subconscious mind is that instead of love being equal in love, loved equal sex and beauty and desirability, and then you just end up chasing this rabbit trail your whole life, trying to get attention and love from all the wrong places, and it was just destructive chaos. And I don't want anyone else to live the kind of life that I ended up living and not really waking up to to exactly what I was doing to myself until way, way, way too much damage had been done. And, life just doesn't have to be that way. And so, if you, the only difference between the chaos that I was creating and then the healthy variety that my body really runs on, that it wants to run on, is the chemical that you put out. And when you learn how to intentionally create variety all the time, then you can be happy and not just ridden with anxiety all the time. And, the most important thing that trying to be a perfectionistic and all those different hats and roles that we were talking about earlier is that it robs you of joy, just pure joy. And it robs you, like I said before, if you're trying to be so perfect and doing and creating all this busyness so that you kind of numb out from all those areas where you're not really making that grade that you were wanting to make, then it ends up robbing you of your health too. And so many of my patients in my 30 years of being a doctor were just having surgery after surgery after surgery and heart attack after heart attack after heart attack. And you know when sometimes autoimmune diseases, they kind of run together, and they would have like problems with their thyroid, then they have diabetes, and they have pituitary malfunction, and these things, they just, none of this equates with a good healthy life. And what you're here on this earth to give your gifts and talents first to yourself, and then to your work, and then to the world and everybody that you run into in your life. And when you're not running on all the cylinders, again, you're not able to even access any of your gifts and talents. And so my program, the first half of my program, we actually clear out your reticular activating system. And I go into that on some of my back talks. I don't have time to go into all that today. But you literally go through influence by influence, and all an influence is a person, place, or thing that caused you a strong emotion, whether it's happiness or whether it's sadness or fear or terror or anything like that. You go on the first half of our program, we clear out every single bit of those influences that we have in our lives. And then after you've cleared out at least 16 of those, and this is done through simple 30-minute meditation tracks that you can do in the comfort of your own home, then we go in and we start actually regulating for the first time all those different gestalts, and we will clear out the gestalts of your top six emotions so that you can go up and you can go down. They're not all six of them always at a high, okay? Where they're just spilling off, like anger spills off into rage, and sadness spills off into depression, and fear spills off into anxiety, and then guilt can spill off into shame. And I don't know about you, but I know that the statistics are alarming in America, just how many people suffer from anxiety and depression. So I don't know how many of you guys are suffering from that too. But that doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that you have full gestalts that aren't regulated. And I can show you how to regulate those. And then after we clear out our emotions, then we clear out limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck in these patterns in your life. Because what you think is happening is that you are seeing everything in your life as opportunities, but you're just like not acting on them. But what's really happening is when you see things in your life as everything in your life, they get filtered through they go right past our thinking brain, and then they get filtered through our subconscious mind. And unless they are an exact match to the limited beliefs and the societal programming and the religious programming and the academic programming that we've gone through in our life, it doesn't even get sent back up into our frontal lobe for processing. After it goes through all that programming, then it gets into our frontal lobe as a memory, and we think that's a memory of an exact replica of what happened in the world. But really, it's only like a tiny fraction of what actually was happening, because our subconscious mind will delete and generalize and distort everything that's really happening to us. And so then we're wondering, like, why aren't we doing any better? why are we continuing these patterns? We have to clear out all that negative programming so you can finally, for the first time in so many of our lives, stop the repeating behaviors and see things how they actually really are. So Jenny's saying she's sick for the first time in 4 years because she was consumed with different economic decisions she was having to have, and yeah, not wanting to ask for help because she's been shamed her whole life for asking for help. Exactly. And so now she's sick, and the one thing she needs is economic stability and some certainty. And she's now finally for the first time realizing she can ask for help, and now she sees there's opportunities everywhere where other people would just get, you know go through the financial demise. I don't know all the details, but you you realize all you gotta do is just ask for some help. Yep, and then your immune system can break down because your body, you don't realize how delicate your immune system is, especially after age 40. We lose so many. It's just unfortunately just a matter of aging, but we lose like 40% of our T cells, which will, those are the ones that are responsible for fighting off fungal infections. If anyone has like, and this is just a silly example, but it's just coming to my mind, toenail fungus, uh, you think that you can just like paint on an antifungal. You never will be able to, because there's just a certain portion of your immune system called T cells that end up going down. And yeah, and then I know um, Jenny suffers from upper respiratory like me. Every time I get sick, it's an upper respiratory thing. But anyway, again, just back to juggling, and what I was ending up doing was all the juggling of always staying busy all the time and always trying to be perfect in those areas that I felt like I was like had a lower score in. It just kept me from true authentic connection, and all the people in my life wanted was me. But instead I was just like, I felt like I was kind of going through this phase of my life where I was just, let me see, how many exotic dinners I can make, or how many restaurants I can go to, or how many trips I can go to, how many um, programs I can buy. Like, I don't know, I just felt like I was constantly striving for perfection in this one area of my life, and then making gifts for people. I know one time I was also really got into a habit of making a bunch of cakes, and I would just spend all my time making these really fancy Paula Deen cakes with white chocolate and peppermint. It was kind of like in between Christmas and Valentine's Day, so they were red and white. Uh, and I was just so busy. My kids and my husband at the time didn't even, they had no connection with me because I was so busy making cakes for all these strangers. Anyway, the things that we end up doing to just wear ourselves down, it's just crazy. But your subconscious programming will actually end up keeping you from doing the one thing that you want. Exactly what you wanted was, for me it was to be lovable by my family, and my subconscious mind making me so busy, 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 it was keeping me from that one thing that I really wanted in my life. And if you do this work where you are actually realizing you are lovable and you are worthy, thank you, Jenny, and you can see everything for how it truly is, this work will pay you dividends for the rest of your life. I was out there saving everybody else but myself. And like I said, I think that's what ends up happening a lot in healthcare workers. It attracts people that love to do for others, but you got to be there for yourself. And if you're the one person that everybody goes to, whether you're a doctor or a nurse or in the healthcare industry, or whether you're just an empath and you're a great listening ear because everybody just loves coming to you and talking to you, if you're that person that everybody goes to, you have to realize that you have to stop and you have to be there for yourself too. Like, we all know, empaths especially, we know what it feels like to be in deep pain, and we don't want others to feel that way. And people just love making a difference in people's lives, but you have to heal yourself first so that you can be there for other people. And the people here, in my group, they've spent 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years healing, trying to show up as that authentic versions of themselves so they can live out their God-given purpose here on earth. But they're never able to do that until they realize, just how much authenticity can be gained by just learning how to harness that power in your subconscious mind. So if that's you, book a call with us. I would love to help you. I would love to help you walk you to the other side. I know the work is not easy. It's I always say it's expensive with time and money, but it's nothing compared to how much you're paying, missing out on your life by having these repeated patterns that you hate the most about yourself. So just release the shame and give yourself grace. You were doing the best you can, and actually it's your subconscious mind trying to keep you safe and give you love and significance. But if you're not if you're not showing up as your authentic self, then you're sacrificing so much money and so many great relationships and your purpose in life. And I know some people would they try to put a price tag on healthy relationships. There's really sometimes no price. There's no price tag on those are priceless. But all of this is waiting on the other side of your healing. You deserve this. You deserve the full you. I will see you next Tuesday again at 10 because I want you guys to tell me what you want to hear about. Again, next week is my 1 year anniversary of coming in here doing these little 30-minute talks on how to run your brain. And I want to give a talk next week on whatever it is that you guys want to hear from. But I love you guys. Take care, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 10.